You're not going to believe me, but in 2018, a theatrical stage company out of Japan called Sega Mania put on a live stage show for Rent a Hero.
No, they didn't.
It ran for 5 days and consisted of a production team of 41 people.
You're right. I don't believe you.
Welcome to New Game Plus. This is a retro gaming podcast where three guys spend 7 days playing one old game and then we talk about it. My name's Dustin.
My name is Kenny.
Nolan here.
And this is episode 393. The question of the week: what video game has the worst name?
There are probably worse, and I have tried to think of some. But our catalog tends to be the games that first pop into mind.
Yes.
So
We got some bad ones.
We have some terrible ones. Of games that we've played, the first one that I thought of when you asked this question was Bassin's Black Bass with Hank Parker.
Okay.
That's literally my answer.
Oh,
Kenny.
for real? Nolan's the
Yes.
one answer?
It's so bad.
It's bad because it's like all
think
those
we've got
words
worse.
make sense, but when you put them in that order, it's stupid.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll submit another one from our catalog. You
Okay.
might
Yeah.
disagree, but I think Hamtaro Hams Unite
Bad.
is pretty bad.
Bad.
Disagree.
I think
Ham
probably
Hams-
all the Hamtaro games have terrible names.
Hams Unite.
That's pretty bad.
There's been another one that's been submitted in our Patreon pools in the past. It hasn't come around yet, but every time I see it, I cringe. It's literally titled Peter Jackson's King Kong, the official game of the movie.
Oh no.
That's the title.
That's so bad.
That's like the licensing of the game. They were just like, that's the
Yeah,
title
that's
too.
awful.
Don't worry
Yeah.
about it.
I think some of the Mary Kate games we played are poorly named.
Magical
Not Magical
Mystery
Mystery
Mall.
Mall. That's a good
No,
one.
Magical Mystery Mall was special. I was
aptly
just
named.
randomly scrolling through our retro master list to get more inspiration just now, and happened across a game called Singles 2 Triple Trouble, which just sounds like they're
Singles
trying
2
too hard.
That sounds like a
Yeah.
title you came up with, Kenny.
Yeah, no.
It
does.
does, and I hate myself
Sounds
for it.
three hard. I also thought of Nolan. Pretty much any of the Kingdom Hearts titles. There are literal titles that are this is one. Kingdom Hearts 358 over 2 days.
Yeah.
No,
That's how it's
Dream Drop.
pronounced.
Dream Drop Distance, Birth by Sleep.
It's not just Birth by Sleep. No, that game is called
I
Kingdom
know.
Hearts 0.2 Birth by
I know.
Sleep, a fragmentary passage.
Wait, I didn't know
No.
the final part. I didn't know that.
no,
And they
that's
always
so
throw
bad.
numbers in there, like 2.0, 2.5 remix and stuff. And it's
It-
just like, all right.
It gets really bad. There are a lot of really, really terrible video game titles.
A lot.
I'm sure we've missed some too, though. So tell us your least favorite video game title. Drop it in our Discord channel. We got a whole conversation ongoing to answer the question of the week. We'd love to hear from you this week.
Absolutely. And if you do, you might go from 0 to the number one person in our lives. Like in our retro game of the week, Rent a Hero number 1.
Overview.
Rent a Hero number 1 is a beat 'em up for the Dreamcast. This is our second remake on the show, if I'm not mistaken. We mentioned it briefly last episode that we played the Resident Evil remake for the GameCube, the first one.
Yeah.
So technically, I think that's the first one, but still kind of like, let's acknowledge that. Remakes are a huge thing now. But back in 2003, they were less of a thing, I feel like. So this is kind of interesting.
It's crazy to me that this is a remake because I kept forgetting that, and it doesn't feel like it.
It's also
when you play the
it's
game.
also interesting, out of all the games they could have remade, they went with this one.
Yeah, exactly. It was a choice.
I don't know that the decision behind that, because there seems to be a lot of other candidates that could have gotten a remake at this time. But the original one was on the Mega Drive, and it's called Rent a Hero. So I guess that one's Rent a Hero number 0.
Number 0. Yeah.
The remake they just put number 1.
Titled a lot like the Kingdom Hearts games, it sounds like.
Yeah. It was developed by Aspect, and it was published by Sega in 2003. Never heard of Aspect, but we all know Sega, and the Dreamcast is an interesting console. We haven't played a ton of games on the show on the Dreamcast either. This is kind of, I mean, we've played some, but I didn't own one, but I've always been intrigued by it because of Sega's just console failures and struggles that they used to have.
A few things. One, no one owned a Dreamcast, which is interesting. number
one
two,
person.
Number two, I think it was called Creamcast. In this
yeah.
game, it's called Creamcast.
It is, but that was not a good choice.
No, among many others. And then three, I know. Don't get mad at me. This did not come out in 2003. It came out in 2000 for the Dreamcast. It came out in 2003 for the Xbox.
Right.
And
I wrote that down wrong.
And you heard Nolan, but he said Mega Drive earlier, and that's important because it stayed in Japan, the original, and also this remake. Neither of those ever came over here,
right.
Which is also very interesting because last week's game also never made it out of Japan.
Yeah, back to back on that. So yeah, Japan only, Sega, Dreamcast, beat 'em up. We were able to play the game this week because of the English translation that just came out this year. Am I correct in that?
Like months ago.
That's so weird and great for us because
that's crazy.
I don't know how we would have played this in Japanese. I don't think you can. Cuz it's like
learn Japanese, bro.
Learn Japanese cuz it's not like a Japan only platformer. Right, where you just input things, you're making text options. The story. You are Taro Yamada.
Or who? Who did you put? Who were you playing, Nolan?
Kenny.
Okay.
Yamada.
Kenny, who are you playing?
I don't recall what I used as a name. It was so generic.
Tomfoolery? I feel like that's something you would do.
Is this one of those
totally
games where they don't fill in tarot for you?
No, they just let you guess it. I obviously did my research beforehand because if there's a character, I'm playing as that character, so I put in the guy's name Taro. Yeah.
Okay. So Kenny Yamada is just some kid that moved to Koja Town with his boring and super lame family. The Yamada family. Kenny, stop. The Yamada family is hosting a party with their neighbors to get adjusted to the new town, introduce themselves.
That doesn't sound boring to me.
Especially with what you're about to say.
They're just having everyone's having a great time, but then disaster strikes. They run out of food. So then your dad has you call in delivery, and along with your food,
this is absurd.
Kenny receives the food, but also a box that has a costume inside of it that gives him powers. Then you almost kill your dad with a punch because it gives you powers. And so you use that information and decide to start a small business where you rent out yourself as a hero with the suit. And that comes along with the fees and the batteries required for this suit that you got from a food service delivery guy that turns out to be a front for some business called Sega.
And just to be clear, Nolan's not making any of that up. That is pretty much exactly what's happening.
Verbatim.
That's the Reader's Digest version.
I didn't add flavor. Like, that's literally what happens in this game.
And I believe that it is a direct remake and pretty faithful, meaning that if you're playing the Mega Drive version, that's what you're experiencing as well, just not in a 3D environment.
Right.
Gameplay.
For those of you that have been following along with the show for some time, or maybe you've checked out our backlog, I'll help you visualize this if you haven't played it. You remember Shenmue?
Yeah, I love it.
Very, very similar. I think same console, obviously Sega. And that's kind of the same variety that you get with this game.
I don't like the comparison, but it's fair.
I knew you wouldn't, but it's 100%
It's a fair comparison.
Don't say 100% because the vibes are totally different. Shenmue is a serious game with a story, and this is neither of those things.
No, it's loony. But there a lot of the gameplay setup and mechanics are there, and I bring it up because it's Sega, and Sega in this era had the most like obvious stamp on their games. You could tell. You always could tell. And I don't know, my mind immediately went to Shenmue, so maybe it'll help some people kind of visualize the game as we start to break it down.
Do you know Shenmue isn't the only game that people reference when they think about this game?
I think Yakuza, is that what you're going to say?
Yes.
Yeah, totally. It's off a different vibe again.
Right, very different vibe.
Similar, though, enough that I'm okay with the comparison.
Meaning, for those that haven't played, it's a lot of it's a walking simulator. You are moving around in a pre-established place, a town for the most part, and there are some citizens around doing citizen-y things, and you can interact with or talk to them as you pass by. You get into very infrequent battles, and the thing that makes this one a little bit unique, one of the things, is that basically at any time you can morph into or out of your combat armor, and he does this spin.
Not heroic. It's not heroic spin.
It's not always a spin.
It's a pirouette.
He does moves.
It's a pirouette.
He does dance moves
and transforms.
And transforms. Yep.
And look, let's say this: the look of him as a superhero is not bad. That's a pretty cool looking fighter character. Relatively typical, but it also doesn't necessarily give him superpowers. It just allows him to hit harder. That's
super strength.
That's a superpower.
That's a very limited scope of superpowers.
So
I'm just making a point.
What is the term in Japan for Power Rangers? They're that style of fantasy where it's teenagers morphing into superheroes, right? That's
sort of
what
in
this
that
is.
vein. Yeah.
I don't know how to say it.
Super Sentai, right? I think so.
I don't know.
Or Sentai.
But sure.
It sounds. I'm nervous.
Who knows what you just said?
Be careful.
Yeah.
Can we get the English translator team?
Translation is hard
to come patch Dustin's words. That style of fantasy is basically what this like teenager is tapping into. You put on the Power Ranger suit and you can punch people hard. I don't know.
But the whole vibe, they're going for self-aware quirky is kind of what they're doing. They're aware. They know what they're doing, even if you don't like it. Like, the combat armor is manufactured by Sega. There is, I think we may have mentioned it, but a macro heart. What is it? I don't want to. I'm nervous about everything that I'm saying. There's a company instead of Microsoft. I think it's called Macro.
It's called
macro
something.
Hard. It's got to be macro.
It's macro something, and they're working on their new OS Bimbos.
Bimbos.
Yeah. There's a Dreamcast
there's lots
rug.
Of references, exactly.
And Creamcast.
It's parody. Everything
after
is
you get your combat armor, later at your door is delivered a Creamcast, which you go and plug up into your TV upstairs. And
system.
By the way, you're literally picking up this Creamcast off the ground, walking up the stairs, taking it to your TV and hooking it up, and then you can go through like mail and missions. That's where you actually get your missions in this game from whoever delivered this. The thing that's unfortunate, in my opinion, one of the major things, is that your first mission is to go around town and hand out flyers.
For your business.
Your second mission is to deliver a guy's love letter. Your third mission is to deliver food for a restaurant. None of these missions require a guy in a rented superhero costume.
No, that's like a courier. That's not a superhero.
That's just a teenager. Yakuza. That's a teenager doing a summer job.
This is Yakuza. I mean, I had the comparison in my head, but like you're a mob guy running stupid errands for kids in Yakuza. Can you get my game back from that guy that stole it?
Yes. However, the thing that I appreciate about Yakuza is that you are quickly thrown into battles and can get into battles regularly. The thing that is insane here, guys, that I would imagine I played more than y'all. I don't know, and we don't have to have that debate. I'm just saying that none of these three missions that I just mentioned Here, in the first 3 hours of gameplay, I got into 3 battles. That is including
Yeah, that was going to be
punching my dad in a dinosaur costume.
Right, which is over in 2 seconds. It's not. It's like a
3
scripted death.
battles in 3 hours. The rest of the time, running around, not knowing where I'm going, and delivering things.
My understanding is that later in the game
I
it
don't
becomes
care.
much more frequent.
I don't care.
And I know that's also sort of Shenmue-esque, like what you do.
There wasn't a lot
and
of
how
battles,
often
yes.
the fights happen, just sort of happen occasionally, and then you're training and whatever else outside, and then having these big fight moments. But I never got to a fight that felt like a big fight moment either, and I probably played about the same amount as you in total.
I almost didn't want to call it a beat 'em up.
It's
No, it's
an action RPG.
Whatever Shenmue's called.
don't ever
It's an
say those
ARPG.
words to me
Well,
again.
no, it's just crazy. Like, it's so similar to those other games. It's just there's less
Gameplay.
action in game.
Gameplay. There's not
Yeah,
you're not doing anything of substance.
It's a 3D cosplay sim
Wow.
I mean,
Yeah.
That's
with
cool.
occasional
Yes.
with occasional 3-dimensional fighting instead of like 2D fighting.
But even when you do get into 3D fighting, it's not innovative. It doesn't require, in all of the battles that I fought, I can just spam punch over and over again and win the battle.
Absolutely. You've got this whole mechanic of like learning new combos and this guy that wants to train
Right.
you and all this stuff. You don't need
No.
that. Maybe later in the game
Maybe.
you do. Maybe you have to get really good at a fight for 2 important fights, but in the beginning front-loaded portion of this game at least, that is completely on the back burner.
What y'all have to know though is that there are some people out there that would like this style more than a heavily saturated like fighting kind of thing.
Sure.
Well, and I'm good for it if there's a robust story or if there's something that's keeping me there. I could go robust story. I could go very interesting world. I could go very funny humor. I could go a lot of things.
They're trying to keep you with the humor.
I understand that they're trying.
I don't think it works.
They're
I'm
trying
with you.
hard.
But there was a shtick they're definitely going for, and this sort of like immersive like tone and experience. I think whether they delivered that at all is 100% up for debate. But it's not like they weren't trying.
Well, and I'll tell you this. I wasn't frustrated as Nolan was in his first play. Meaning, my first 30 minutes to an hour, I was kind of somewhat intrigued. This is quirky. This is weird. But I'm kind of interested into this. But when it continued to be the same thing after the same thing after the same thing, and I wasn't doing anything, and there's no story evolution, and it was just, it's like, it feels like an unfinished product of a like, hey, they thought they had a creative, funny world to go and explore, and it just wasn't creative nor funny. But Nolan was pretty much turned off within 5 minutes of playing.
Yeah, that first play was torture.
I love salty Nolan.
I was kind of there at the beginning, but I edited
you
that
had to
part
go
out.
and talk to everybody in the house, you were mad.
Exactly. I edited I was like, oh, interesting. But then my dad started talking, and I was like, nah, I'm done with this guy.
It's like the first thing.
And then he was like, this is literally the first thing. And then he asked you to talk to every single person, and I hate that. And then I went back to talk to my dad, and he was like, talk to everybody.
You missed
and I was
someone.
like, and I walked in the entire house. There were other people, like somebody's in the kitchen, at the front door.
had to figure out how to go upstairs.
But that's all fine. Then I go to order the food, and there are 3 options. And
He chose both wrong ones first.
I chose both of the wrong ones, thinking.
Me too.
But they were funny. What was it? McDonald's fast food or something?
Salmonella's burgers.
Yeah. And
That was funny
it
too.
turns out to be the first option. But yeah, I was just, it's a hard sell for me when let me try to voice why I think Shenmue is good to me and this isn't. Shenmue does have the story. It pulls you in immediately with emotion, and you have a purpose, and it's a little more serious. Yeah, it's kind of goofy and awkward, but this one, they hit you with the Power Rangers intro theme, anime theme on the television after the tutorial. and that doesn't do it for me. And when
like
there's
that.
no combat gameplay, what am I doing? What I'm
if
asking
Shenmue-
myself, what am I doing right now?
If Shenmue is the immersive gameplay experience of like a serious, like Hong Kong style action movie, like getting you in the story and teaching you the moves and drama and all this stuff, Rent a Hero number 1
That title.
is based on like some kid's YouTube channel content,
Skibidi
not
toilet.
not like something robust.
Yeah.
I think they could have had something more substantial if they would have worked out the battle system a little bit more. That could have been one thing. It still could have had this humor that was somewhat interesting. Like, one of the things that could have been fascinating is that when you move around town, by the way, it's not overly populated. There's not tons of people walking around, which I know you're somewhat limited at this time.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it feels pretty sparse though. Like you notice
it feels very sparse. When you go and talk to certain people, there's certain dialogue that happens when you're not costumed, and then you can transform right in front of them, and there's different dialogue. For some people, it doesn't change at all. But there could have been something.
Y'all are bad heroes.
You did it in private, didn't you? You went into the back alley.
Oh my gosh!
I ain't about to let everybody know
found
that I
the
got a
phone
secret
booth.
identity.
He found a phone booth.
There is a
There's
phone booth. I tried to go in
bathrooms
it. You can't.
everywhere in this game. That's the perfect place to
Kenny
change
would.
clothes.
He's role
You
playing.
would. You did it in your room after you got through playing your Creamcast.
But the point that I'm making is that if there was some good battling here, there could have been something more, at least to keep me playing for a little bit more. By the
sure.
way, the battle system, the fighting engine was borrowed from Sega's, a different game from Sega, an arcade game called Spike Out, which is a beat 'em up that came out for the arcade.
I hadn't heard of that.
But it's just kind of like it doesn't feel like an engine. It just feels like I don't know, like one of those just
calling it an engine is bold. I feel like it feels ground up. Like you said, you punch most of the time.
I think
at least in Yakuza you have those combos that are flashy. They're not all that powerful, but they're flashy, and you want to do the combos. You want to input the buttons. Here, when you finally get a battle, it's like, all right, let me get this over with. I don't know.
It's not.
I can't put my finger on it.
There's some similarities, but it's far from the same. I think the main thing, and I know I've said it, but I just want to clarify here. I think the main thing, as we're in the gameplay section, is that there's very little gameplay.
For sure.
Right. There's threats of depth. You've got items to shop from.
Threats.
You've got menus that have different things and like potential like different things you can wear and costumes and power-ups. There's all this stuff that felt like if you needed to use these systems to do something, it could matter. Like it felt like it was full of potential to me. But then you never did. And again, maybe the problem is that it just takes too long to get there, but that's not the sense I have
Also,
from
that's
a little
bad.
bit that we played.
Don't
And
take so
if
long.
that's bad, if everyone bounces off your game 3 or 4 hours in because you haven't become the game you're supposed to be,
That's a
that's its
problem.
own problem.
Yeah.
So either way, this game is problematic.
Well, and let me just add one other thing, because I think they could have even made the bad gameplay easier, but it's not, because you don't have a map or a mini map. And so so you're told to go to the school to drop something off, or you're told to go to the bank. You don't know where these places are, and so you're just having to wander around for the longest time. Or they like deliver this to this named person. The first mission is
Dude.
The first mission is deliver like these 6 flyers. Some people won't take them. So you're just running around like a chicken with your head cut off, trying to find somebody. Some people are inside, some people are outside. Some, there's no guide, there's no mini map, there's nothing to even make the tedious, boring gameplay more accessible. It's like, here's bad gameplay and we're going to make it difficult bad gameplay.
Aged.
Let's first address the patch.
Yeah.
Because I think today the majority of people are going to be playing it with the English patch. I think it is imperfect but completely understandable.
Yeah, it's great.
Yes.
It's great. And it almost makes you wonder if that's why the game is so off the radar. Because without the patch, obviously you can't play the game.
We can't, yeah.
We can't. And you're having to translate an awful lot because most of the game is
It's
talking
just
to people.
talking dialogue, yeah.
Yeah.
But the translation itself, I think they did a fantastic job, and I'm sure people that have wanted to experience this game are very happy.
We've talked about this before, though, but humor especially, I feel like, is hard to translate.
Yeah,
and there were some funny moments in here that stuff worked, a few, and then there were moments where you were feeling like they were trying to do something funny, and it just didn't quite connect. It literally felt like jokes got lost in translation.
Absolutely.
And some of that translation is even localization stuff. Like there was a translation, but then you're also not in this game. It tried to localize. But you're not a Japanese character.
Yeah.
But then your family is singing karaoke and bowing to each other when they're hosting their guests.
The neighborhood is very Americana.
The setup of the houses feel very specific and time and place to like it just. It's awkward. It's like it didn't fully. Both the translation and the localization make it feel kind of fever dreamish and uncomfortable. I don't know. It's weird.
But that just speaks to Sega intentionally making the game for Japanese audiences and leaving it that way.
Kenny, you had mentioned
that's okay.
last week when we were playing a game that didn't make it out of Japan that you gave 4 reasons as to why games don't make it outside of Japan. You don't remember them.
I could go look them up, or I'm sure I can come up with them again because it seems fairly obvious to me. Crazy is one reason.
Yes.
Straight up bad is another reason.
Correct.
Too hard for American audiences is another reason.
You have another?
And then I think just like weirdly Japanese,
culturally,
unique and quirky and like culturally specific.
Which combination do you apply?
I feel like it was a combination of culturally weird, Japanese specific, and bad here. A little bit of both.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the game is. I think it's one thing, and I think it's that the game's bad. Like, I'll talk to a Japanese person right now. There's no way they're telling me Rent the Hero #1 is sick.
You don't think this is anyone's favorite game?
No, I don't. I think some people enjoy it. I don't think it's anyone's favorite game.
We said that it also released in 2003 for the Xbox in Japan. One thing that is somewhat interesting is that there was an unreleased American localization for the Xbox, meaning they developed the game, they just didn't release it. And that full game was leaked in 2008. So you can actually play the Xbox official English American localization for this game if you wanted to.
Well, the fact that it was canned, they saw it. And they were like, doesn't work for them.
They saw the finished product.
Yeah.
They saw it and were like, yeah, we're not doing that.
That doesn't happen. They lose money doing that. They lost a lot of money when they decided to do that.
They had a localization team and then decided, never mind.
Dude, that's crazy.
The music was one of your favorite things, Nolan.
You think?
Yeah, I could tell in the first play.
That song in the beginning is crazy, but it doesn't get better.
The thing that's amazing is that they chose the most bizarre music that is designed to make you go insane.
It is, dude. It felt like you were trapped in an insane asylum, forced to play this game. In a straitjacket, the suit.
The loop is relatively short and fairly piercing, and so it does make you feel like you're going crazy.
It's wild. And then, I mean, there's nothing to speak about the rest of it. The intro theme was kind of...
I thought that was
rolled my eyes at it and make fun of it, but like it was kind of cool, like that they went there with it. And
on the TV, they played some of the Mega Drive footage, which is cool. A cool little.
Oh, I like that. I didn't. Yeah. I didn't know at the time it was like a remake, and so
look at us finding one thing.
One little nice little Easter egg.
There
in
was
there.
one Easter egg. We'll make an omelet out of it.
Graphically, it felt like Dreamcast. It wasn't abhorrent in my opinion. It just wasn't special.
I'll find something else to talk about. Nice about it. I think it's great. I really love
the graphics.
The game.
Yeah. No, the graphics. I really love this era of Sega and their style. Like I said earlier, they always had a stamp on these games that you could always tell, and this is one of them. Just in the character models, in the posters and the details on the wall, everywhere you look, there's like some detail or something to kind of like smile at. And the 3D, graphics and everything, I think age kind of well in comparison to some other 2000 games.
the weird boxy houses feels a little strange in that it almost feels more PC to me than like console game.
Yeah.
And then they do some like hyper realistic things, like again, all of the houses being like to size and having bathrooms in them and things that actually are kind of like, oh no, this actually feels like real and immersive and is different, but isn't normal. But I agree, like the look was actually good, and given that and how much you're moving around a 3D environment and the year this game came out, the camera work also isn't terrible here. I felt like it did a fine job of following and kind of giving you visuals of where you were, and those are things that don't always go well. And
Yeah,
so
I like the
again,
top-down camera.
Yeah, not everything is done poorly here, but some things
The camera was impressive. The top down when you go upstairs is convenient. You can see everything in the room. Not a lot of games really did that, and I think it's a good solution to something like that when you're in an interior and you have a lot of rooms and a hallway. But I do agree the exterior...
They're well decorated. They feel lived in. Like it was okay. The outside world is a little
That's
hollow,
the weak
for
point,
sure.
yeah.
Yep.
You're not going to believe me, but in 2018, a theatrical stage company out of Japan called Sega Mania put on a live stage show for Rent a Hero.
No, they didn't.
It ran for 5 days and consisted of a production team of 41 people.
You're right. I don't believe you.
I do believe you because that doesn't surprise me.
That's crazy.
Honestly, with the right writers, the basic, I'm not talking the exact game, the basic plot here
is killing your
of
dad.
like a C tier hero for hire that's like funny and just like phoning it in.
Yeah.
But like, you know, kind of their local hero, but like knockoff, and the jokes could be hilarious. But
I will tell you the images. There's images. I'll share them with you. We'll throw them up in Discord. They don't look bad. It's a professional company that put this on. It's insane.
You said it ran for 5 days?
It ran for 5 days. Yeah, it ran for 5 days.
Okay. Maybe we'll get to catch it when it comes back.
There is no series, so you're either playing the Mega Drive or you're playing the Dreamcast or the Xbox version of the original game or the remake. And
which makes it helpful that they said that this was number one, given that fact.
You know, they were just hedging their bets just in case
They're
there was
like,
a
this
number
is gonna be
just in case it blew up. This is the first one.
If you want a copy for your Dreamcast, it's easy. $16 used and $36 new.
Easy.
They're trying to get rid of them.
This is such a weird game, dude. The more we talk about it.
Through and through.
Final thoughts.
At the very end of our episodes, we determine whether or not the game gets our vote for New Game Plus status, which is our general thumbs up or thumbs down. It does require 2/3 of the vote to swing one way or the other. Kenny, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, this one's definitely an easy no New Game Plus for me, probably unsurprisingly after the way we've talked about. But it's a kind of confusing no, because I thought this one had potential in the idea and the concept, and even some of the systems they started to implement, but then just missed. Ultimately, they try to be charming and funny, but instead they're just awkward and sort of undefined and confusing. It's almost like if someone had a really talented third grader make a game and described Shenmue to them, but they hadn't even played the game themselves. They were just like, I want you to make this game, and then described it, but then an awkward child made it. And that's the outcome of this game. Don't waste your time. No New Game Plus.
This is one of those remakes that is likely far worse than the original. I firmly believe I would have enjoyed more the original Mega Drive game. And I do think a large gap is translating the humor to us or localizing it to us.
Agreed.
Because I just don't think that works. And so that's just a further gap for us. I could see people enjoying the original version that can speak Japanese for sure. And I'm with you, Kenny. Like, I think the potential here, I don't say po as hard as you do on that word, but the potential here is, it's there. There could have been something here, but there is not. And Shenmue is a hard reach for large audiences, and I understand that. It's not for everybody. This is much further than even that. And I do not give Rent a Hero #1 my vote for New Game Plus status. It's not a good game.
And I will just say that the game feels very empty to me. In a way that is so distracting, where you're running around.
It's almost disconcerting.
You're maybe on a mission, but you're like, where is everybody and everything? It feels like post-apocalyptic. It feels like an unfinished game. And I know there's an audience for this game. I do. I think it's a very small audience, but for most people, this is going to be a difficult sell because there's not too much game to enjoy. And I mean, it may be long. I don't know how long the game is. I just mean there's not a lot of gameplay going on. And for me, that's the main reason why I can't give this New Game Plus, because I love Shenmue and I like the idea of a game like this. I just think it's a little too out there for me in the theme. I don't love the superhero theme. And then there's no game. So no New Game Plus.
Which means Rent a Hero #1 is not New Game Plus certified. But what did you think? We hit a record, we believe, last week when 92% had never played IS before.
Yes.
We broke that record the week after.
Are you kidding?
Immediately.
Are you kidding? 2 Japan only back-to-back, and then 2 records broken back-to-back?
92%, I think, last week hadn't played IS. This week, 94% on our YouTube poll have never played Rent a Hero #1.
When Garlisle says, I've never even heard of this game,
That's scary.
That's scary.
94%.
So, yeah.
That's
a lot.
almost everyone.
That's almost everybody in the world.
4% said yes, it's worth playing today. 2% said no, go play something else.
Hey, 4% of our audience is from Japan. Nice.
The 4%. And they liked it, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Our community, we surprisingly didn't have that many people write in this week, but here are a few of their thoughts. Garlisle said, I'm impressed at how much they managed to whiff an excellent concept. The pacing is plodding and slow. The controls are clunky and unresponsive. Combat options feel like a bad joke. And while it might be filled with silly dialogue, that's the only thing about the world that feels anything but boring. That said, I did get some joy out of the Segata Senshiro cameo, so I had more fun than Shenmue, I guess.
What?
Wow.
Shut up, Garlisle.
Fully agreed until that last sentence, and I didn't even particularly like Shenmue.
Dude, Shenmue is
Garlisle,
so rich compared to this. This juicy casino. Oh my god, that game's so good.
I don't know if Garlisle means that. You could pet a cat, I think, in Shenmue. Okay.
Yeah, you could pet cats in Shenmue.
Just petting the cat in Shenmue,
right,
as an experience was better than this entire game.
You're not joking. And there's okay. Turtle said Rent a Hero #1 is known as a Dreamcast classic for some reason.
No, I'm not going to say no, it's not. I don't know.
Not going to talk much about this game, how this game is basically just a series of fetch quests that slowly get longer each mission. So I will just talk about how bad the combat is. First, you barely do any fighting before very late in the game, which is honestly kind of an A+, or which is kind of a plus. Second, the random battle encounter rate is insane. It's like once every 2 steps sometimes. Of course, you only get random encounters when you're a hero, which wouldn't be that bad if not for the fact that certain events and characters, both optional and mandatory, only appear if you are a hero. Third, the fighting is basically mindless except for the fact that you have to try to stay in the middle of an invisible border at all times. Still, the fighting in this game is the high point. No NGP for me.
I mean, it's a high point, but it's still abysmal.
That's crazy that a really, really bad fighting system is the high point, but I can't disagree. Klin said, I won't even give this the benefit of being called bad. Some grotesque creatures can find enjoyment in bad games like Mega Man 3 or Shrek Hassle at the Castle. All right, maybe he's given it because he
taking jabs.
He sped-randed Hassle at the Castle.
Right.
RAH number 1 is worse than bad. It's miserable. Miserable to play, miserable to watch, miserable to even have knowledge of. For the respect of your own retinas, please play something else.
Yeah.
In fairness, he might have gone slightly too far, but only just.
Yeah, we played worse.
Yeah.
But this is bottom tier.
It's very
Yeah, I never got like angry at the game or at the world
Nolan was
or
angry
anything playing this game.
immediately.
I know Nolan was, but that takes very, very,
That's
very
me
little.
though. That's
True.
just me.
Yeah. But I just didn't ever care. Like it wasn't fun, but I wasn't like offended.
I just
by this
know
game or
that when
anything. It's just no.
I just know that when I rank the games for the year, you know how we've been doing
Yeah,
that.
absolutely.
It's gonna be
all three of us.
It's gonna be very
Bottom
very
tier
low.
for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, for now, we are setting aside Rent a Hero, and we are once again going to randomly select. I think the randomizer gods are shunning us because of how successful our summer pool party was. We had a great one, and now we are stuck with bad game after bad game after bad game. Hopefully, that is not happening again. Randomly selecting now. Hopefully you're not tired of fighting. If you didn't get it enough in this last week's game,
Dude.
you can fight in this week's game.
We didn't fight much this week, so maybe that's a good thing.
That's true.
This is a fighting game developed by Leland Interactive Media and published by Trade West for the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis in 1994.
Who's Leland?
It is an American-produced sequel to a particular series. And the series, up until this point, had historically been side-scrolling beat-em-ups. This, instead, is a head-to-head fighting game. Interesting.
I don't
Based
like this.
on, or in the style of Capcom's 1991 arcade hit Street Fighter II.
Sure.
Okay.
So the game, another fighting game, which is very close to recently, but this is going to be very different.
Yeah,
we
we've
are
had a few.
for the next 7 days playing a game called Double Dragon 5: The Shadow Falls.
The fifth one.
I don't know about this one specifically, but
V
Double
one.
Dragon as a franchise was pretty popular.
Well, sure.
And they got to number 5. So like I'm excited to figure out what this is about.
The only thing, so my hesitations here are Double Dragon is known as a good side-scrolling beat 'em up,
Beat 'em up.
Right.
Yeah.
which this is not.
That's my concern.
This is the diversion, and we'll see if it pivots at all.
Not only a
well.
diversion from style, but from developers. Like it's just
Right.
Yeah.
I'm nervous, but hey, it could be
Me
cool.
too. But the IP has potential, and we'll see. There was a movie, wasn't there? I watched this movie
Probably.
as
How
a
do
child.
You watched
There is a-
Double
There's a
Dragon
Double
5.
Dragon animated series.
I don't think it was that.
Okay.
I may be thinking of a different movie. There's a
You
Double
might have been thinking of the
Dragon-
real life
Live
Street Fighter.
action Double Dragon
live
film?
action. Yes, that's the one.
Oh my gosh, he
You
wasn't kidding.
watched it?
Of course.
I
That,
had no
they
idea.
copied Street Fighter in every way. Street Fighter did that too.
Kenny.
What?
All right, bring some history. Bring some of your history next week.
I will.
Everybody,
I got some nostalgia.
Find a copy of Double Dragon V: The Shadow Falls. Play it along with us this next week.
We want you to join us in Discord. We have a thriving community, and it's also where you can leave commentary that will be read on the show, which is super hype. So I want to just give a little shout out to Young Gualu, who joined Discord this last week. Congrats to you. You were randomly
welcome.
selected as a shout out
As our
on the
shout
show.
out.
Yeah, Discord shout out. It's a new thing.
We also want to shout out some other folks because they not only hang out in Discord, but they help to support our show on an ongoing basis by supporting us on patreon.com, including our large list of producer-level supporters, such as Adam, Alex, Amarlian, Anton, and Ben, Big Dude Brunt, D.H. Bowser, Ellis, Fishy, Francesca, Gimbin, Harold, J. Robert, Jake, Jared, Joey, Jordan, Justin, Kenny's Beard, Clint, Knick-Knack, Corey, Levi, Maxima, Not Enough Dog, Pedro, Replicated Flame, Sagen, Sarah, Shane, Shauna, Psycho Mantis, Thomas Turtle, Unbelievable, Siegfried, and Zion. Y'all give me mouthfuls, and I love it. We gotta say thank you to our director level supporters,
Oh my god.
Rojim, Garlisle, and Super Hyper.
Dreamcast.
We got a new patron this week.
Yeah.
Rook Radley.
Thank you, Rook.
Joined
Rook,
on
welcome to the
patreon.com
team.
with their support. Welcome. And even bigger news.
What is it?
We got a new director.
Oh!
Let's go. I can't say that. That's way too Gen Z for me.
What is?
Newest
Let's
director
go?
level supporter. Yeah, let's go is hip and current and not something that I can pull off.
That's Cat.
Ms. Musso is our newest director level supporter. So welcome. Cannot wait to
Ms.
get her on
Musso.
her own episode and talk through some games together. We're so thankful for your support and your very kind email and words about discovering the show.
Yeah,
Very
amazing.
nice.
Thank you.
You can follow us on our social media, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, and YouTube. Links are in the show notes. Listen directly on any podcast provider of your choice. Make sure you subscribe so that you are the first to get new NGP episodes. And while you're at it, please leave a kind rating and review. Our video episode was edited by our friend Dylan. Our audio episode was edited and produced by our friend Dan Willett. Join us next week as we play Double Dragon 5, The Shadow Falls. Until then, I'm still Kenny Yamada.
I'm still finishing these fetch quests.
I'm Kenny Yamada's dad. Kenneth Yamada.
One punch.
And this has been New Game Plus.